Okay, thank you. So, good evening. Today I will be talking about footprints and art. So, before I begin, I'd like to give a bit of an introduction. I'm an artist. You might have guessed that, I don't know. But you might have seen some of my artworks hanging in the hallways. For all of high school, art has been my life. I've participated in several competitions throughout the year, and almost every single weekend and winter break I've spent just painting and painting and painting. But I have a confession. There have been times when I didn't understand why I was making art at all. In fact, I hated it. I hated the pressure, the stress, the constant art block. I just wanted to quit. I felt like I was always painting for other people. I felt like I was always being pressured to win. And I wasn't drawing for myself anymore. And even if I did, I was always too embarrassed to show it to other people. But that's not what art is about. So let me show you something. This is a piece that I'm pretty proud of, obviously very detailed. It was my highest selling piece, but I'm not here to brag. Let me show you something else. This is a piece that I'm more proud of. You might be thinking, well, what's the difference? They both look like just paintings to me. Well, let me tell you what I see from an artist's point of view. I think the blue's not the right shade of blue. There's not enough depth of field, and the cowboy's a bit too big in this one-point perspective. So you might be wondering, why then? Why am I more proud of this piece? Well, that's because if not for this piece, then this wouldn't exist. This is the piece when I first started stepping out of my comfort zone. Instead of simply just copying a photo, I decided to try to be more creative. I took several photos and I tried to piece them together, and I had to make a background straight out of scratch. And honestly, I wanted to burn this thing so many times when I was working on this. I just thought, wow, this is terrible. This is not going the way that I thought it would be going. This isn't how I imagined it to turn out at all. But I persevered. And I repainted over and over and over. And in the end, I came out with a product that I could live with. Not necessarily that I was happy with at the time, but I could live with it. But now I'm extremely proud of this piece because I challenged myself and I succeeded. And I think we should learn that it's important that we challenge ourselves and we pull through, we succeed. It's not about excelling, but it's just about making it through. So to me, this is what art is about. Art is about stepping out of your comfort zone, and it's about trying new things and challenging yourself, finding new paths, and leaving footprints. But there's a problem. In today's society, I feel like art is severely underappreciated. I think for most people in my age group, art is kind of just something that you do because everyone else is doing. It's more of a hobby or something to put on your resume. And everyone's focused on getting good grades, going to a good school, getting a good job, making more money, that they don't have time to really appreciate art for what it is. People just look at the results and they don't have time to stop and think about the thought and all the process that goes behind all of this. But I don't think we realize how pervasive art is in our everyday lives. Art isn't just paintings and drawings. Art is in the architecture of the buildings that we see. It's in the design of the consumer goods that we buy. It's in the films that we watch, the music that we listen to, even in the books that we read. Any form of creative expression is art. And I titled my speech, The World of Art, but I'm not here to talk about an exclusive world of painters and poets and playwrights. I'm here to talk about the world around us, the world that we all live in, because art is everywhere. And not only does art leave footprints on other people, but it also has the ability to leave footprints on us. So take a look at this Monet painting. This series is worth over $80 million. That's a lot if you ask me. Try to take a closer look. Try to put yourself in the landscape. See how the colors seem to reflect every subtle change of light? It's a really calming atmosphere. And that's what art is about. Art is about the feeling of an instant captured for eternity. And, speaking of how art can bring up all these emotions, Try to imagine your favorite movie scene. It can be an exciting, action-packed scene or a touching, heartwarming scene. Most likely, the music came in at the most impactful moment, rising and falling with the events of the movie. Now try to imagine that same scene without the music. Is it the same? Is it still your favorite? I mean, try to imagine this scene without Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On. Just with no music, sound effects, maybe some wind, waves, a little bit of dialogue. It's awkward, isn't it? And I repeat, is it the same? Now, if you haven't figured it out from the caption already, the answer is no, it's not the same. The music is what gives life to the movie. And so the truth is, we need art. Art makes life interesting. It gives us emotions to feel, and it keeps us sane in this world of cold, hard facts. And in some cases, art can be a form of healing as well. Has anyone heard of art therapy? It's a form of psychotherapy that's actually been used to treat patients with anything from cancer to PTSD to Alzheimer's. And you can actually be licensed professionally to practice this. But even if you're not licensed, you can also do it, just not in a professional setting. So this guy, Bob Ross, most of us have probably heard of him with his joy of painting and happy little trees. If you haven't heard of him already, I'm going to tell you a bit more about him. And even if you have heard of him, you might be surprised by what you hear. Bob Ross joined the U.S. Air Force when he was 18 years old. He eventually rose to the rank of Master Sergeant, and he was the guy who screamed at everyone to get up out of bed, make your bed, clean the latrines. Well, he did that for about 20 years, and he decided, you know what, I'm done screaming at people. So he quit, and he became a painter instead. And surprisingly, or ironically, he became known for the gentle, soothing voice as he painted the happy little trees. And someone asked him about this, and he said, I paint because I can create the kind of world that I want, and I can make that world as happy as I want it. Shoot, if you want bad stuff, watch the news. So I think of Bob Ross as someone who practices art therapy. He's drawn people's attention away from all the bad things in life, and through art, you can kind of just have this therapeutic practice of just, letting go, having a creative outlet. And unfortunately, he passed away in 1995, but reruns of his show are still being played today, and he's really shown thousands, if not millions of people the joy of painting. Music, too, is something that we need. As Carl Palahniuk, director of the Boston Conservatory's Division of Music, once said, music is a basic need of human survival. Music is one of the ways we make sense of our lives, one of the ways we express feelings when we have no words, and a way for us to understand things with our hearts when we cannot with our minds. On January 15th, 1941, this basic need was fulfilled. A piece titled The Quartet for the End of Time premiered that day, outdoors and in the rain, for an audience of about 400 prisoners and guards. The piece was written by a man named Olivier Méjean, using smuggled pen and paper for whatever instrument and musician just happened to be available. So it was a really roughly put together ensemble. But later, he recalled, never was I listened to with such rapt attention and comprehension. Oops, here's the picture. So, the reason that I strongly feel art can leave lasting footprints on our minds is because art is what draws us as human beings together. We've seen how it drew these people who didn't even speak the same language together in a Nazi war camp. And today we have teenagers bonding over shared music tastes. We have online book discussion groups made up of people who are complete strangers in real life. And art has become a form of communication for people who wouldn't, under normal circumstances, be able to understand each other at all. Now, let me tell you a secret. Anyone can be an artist. That's right. Anyone can be an artist. We're just afraid of being judged by others, and that's understandable because making art is like taking a piece of yourself and bearing it out in the open. But we can learn to get over that. There's a quote that I'm rather fond of by Neil Gaiman, an English writer. He said, "Go and make interesting mistakes. Make amazing mistakes. Make glorious and fantastic mistakes. Break rules. Leave the world more interesting for you being here." Now, isn't that just lovely? This whole fear of being judged, it's actually a psychological thing. You can trace it back to the amygdala, which is a region in your brain, two almond-shaped regions that kind of control your emotions. And scientists have been researching this for over 40 years, and they've actually found that adults brainstorm a lot better when they're on their own than when they're in a group. It's all because of that subconscious signaling in their brains. So, everything people have been telling you about group brainstorming may or may not be wrong, unless, if you're just really comfortable with your group and you're okay with saying the stupidest ideas that come to your mind, most likely you're going to have a little bit of a filter, and that's what's stumping the creativity. And what's even more interesting is the researchers found that children brainstorm a lot better than those adults on their own, who brainstorm a lot better than adults in groups. So in other words, children are owning the game here. I mean, they're amazing. The creativity that children have is really something to be treasured. Think back to when you were a kid. Your imagination was just wild and crazy, and you didn't really care about what other people thought. You didn't care about social standards and that kind of stuff. And Picasso said, and I quote, "All children are artists." Really, it's their unrestrained creativity that makes them so admirable. Everything they do, from doodling to playing house to telling stories, it's all a form of art. And they don't care what other people think. They make their art on what they think, not what's real or correct, as we like to label things in our adult world. So I think that's something we can learn from. Every Sunday afternoon, I spend my time teaching kids how to draw. And when I first started working, I was really surprised and reminded of how much you could just enjoy art for what it is. You had all these different kids just making art, having fun. Obviously, some were visibly more talented than others, but that didn't matter. They were just using this as a creative outlet and enjoying their time. And I think this is a fantastic mindset, and we should really learn to take from that. It's not about necessarily being the best. It's just about, being yourself, having fun. So next time it's someone's birthday, or it's Mother's Day or Father's Day, do something special for that special someone. Make them a card, sing them a song, or write them a poem. And I guarantee you, as long as you're putting in the effort, as long as you're giving them a little piece of your own mind, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. And they will definitely appreciate it more than something you picked up at the CVS a few minutes before you went to their birthday party. It'll leave a stronger impression. It'll leave a footprint. So how do we preserve this culture of creativity? How do we keep encouraging people to create art? Well, that's where you guys can make an impact. You can support artists by going to the local art museum, to theaters, to local musical performances. And I know a lot of us are guilty of this, but you can choose not to torrent things. You can support artists by actually buying their works. And it doesn't matter if it's an indie artist or a large famous artist, every small thing that you do to support them can leave a footprint. Because ultimately, art is a medium through which the world can change you, and you can change the world. Thank you.